No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Fozzie Bear himself, Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to talk about the Winnipeg Jets' 2-1 victory over the New Jersey Devils. The Jets getting the road trip off on a good foot. An all-important must-have 2 points in New Jersey. The Jets do get it, backstopped by an incredible performance by backup goaltender Eric Comrie. Ezzy, good evening. Nice to see you. How are things?
Things are good. Yeah, back up, backstopped, all the backs. It's all good. Yeah, Eric Comrie was phenomenal. And, we weren't certain that he was going to get this game against the Devils. But, with that lengthy career he had in New Jersey, it was kind of going to be obvious. Obviously, I'm joking. He only played the one game and had a victory in that one game. But, yeah, he was really good, Drew, especially in that period, right? Like, the Jets had a pretty big letdown in that second period. Like, it was all Devils. And then, obviously, Pierre-Luc Dubois causes a turnover. We'll get into that goal. But, and then Kyle Connor scores, but it seemed like he was the only person, with the exception of maybe a couple of other teammates on the ice, knew that the puck went in the net, right? Because they actually went to a commercial break on the broadcast. It was pretty funny. So they should have known better. Kyle Connor doesn't miss a lot of breakaways, right? So, yeah, it wasn't a beautiful game, but for the most part, and I thought, when the Devils got that early power play in the third period and they didn't convert that, I thought that was pretty deflating for them. And then the Jets controlled the play. What did they have? 7 or 8 of the next shots, right? And the Devils didn't have a lot of offense. Obviously, there was a push there, late in the period with the pulled goalie and everything like that. That should have been a penalty shot, by the way, not a penalty on Dougie Hamilton. I mean, Ehlers was going to score there.
Well, and I thought Mark Scheifele should have received an automatic goal there instead of the hooking penalty that the tripping penalty that Thomas Tatar got with a minute and a half to go. I could have easily heard an argument for an automatic goal being handed out there, but we'll get into that. We'll get to that. Look, Ezzy, this is a Winnipeg Jets team that is not known as being a defensive juggernaut, and they gave up 0 5-on-5 goals tonight, and a lot of that had to do with Eric Comrie. I mean, he's by far the story of tonight's game. He was the number one star, selected by the media in New Jersey. And this was, we sort of said it a little tongue-in-cheek on Tuesday's post-game show if we thought Comrie was going to get the start. Said, the Eric Comrie revenge tour heading into New Jersey. But, he got the start, which I wasn't shocked about because, as I've mentioned again on Tuesday and as we talked about, Connor Hellebuyck has been incredible when the Jets play back-to-back on the second half of back-to-back games like the Jets are going to be playing tomorrow on Long Island. Connor Hellebuyck has been incredible in those second halves of back-to-backs this year. But, Eric Comrie went into New Jersey tonight, and he absolutely, in my mind, was the reason why the Jets came away with the 2 points, a clean 2 points. It's not that, I guess you could say, I think it gets thrown around a little bit too often that, a guy goalies another team. But Eric Comrie was certainly, I thought, the best Jets player on the ice among forwards, defensemen, or goaltenders tonight.
There's no doubt. And, if he didn't goalie the Devils, throughout the game, he definitely goalied them in the second period. Like Jack Hughes, we were talking about it right before we came on. I think some Devils fans were maybe a little bit concerned earlier in his career when he wasn't putting up huge numbers, but obviously he broke into the league as an 18-year-old, and he's still in his early 20s. You forget that, right? It was only a few years ago that he was drafted, but I mean, he's starting to really resemble, Patrick Kane. Obviously, he has a lot of years to go, and he has to put up, some big offensive numbers and win some Stanley Cups before we can really start comparing him to Kane. But I mean, first overall pick, the skill is there, the speed is there. And you saw him on the back check. He broke up a play. Kyle Connor probably would have scored. He didn't even get the shot off, but you see that, Hughes is developing his defensive game too. So, I mean, I think you'd agree he was the best forward on the ice, but yeah, there's no doubt, Eric Comrie really elevated his game. And going back to what you said before, I think, ultimately, aside from the fact that Comrie obviously played the one game with the Devils last year, I think part of it had to do with the fact that he hadn't played in almost 2 weeks, right? So we knew he was going to get the Islanders game if he didn't get the Devils game. But obviously, this decision paid off by Dave Lowry and the coaching staff, right? And we've been talking about this on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show for months now. Eric Comrie is putting together a very good season in limited action, right? He's 4-0-1. He's won his last 4 starts, and it's not a fluke. Like, he's playing really well. He had, what did he ended up with, 35 shots, something like that, 35 plus shots. So we got to give him full marks here.
Yeah, 34 shots the Devils had, 33 saves by Eric Comrie. 4-0-1 is his record in the last 5 games. And, he should have played more. And I think that'll be, one of the takeaways at season's end is that they maybe should have given Eric Comrie more games. And he's probably, depending on what happens over the last, 24 games of this season, he may have earned himself another opportunity as the Jets' backup goaltender next year. It would not surprise me to see the Jets, re-sign him, given the performances that he has put forth so far this season. I mean,
why wouldn't you? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he absolutely should be back. We don't know that, as you mentioned, Drew. Like, I mean, there's salary cap considerations, but I mean, Comrie's not going to be a guy that costs you a crazy amount of money, right? Like, he'll
maybe $1 million.
Yeah, he'll make a very reasonable amount of money. And, the way he has played this year, he's only raised his stock, right? Like, I think when you talk about, Jets that have exceeded expectations, I mean, Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois are in that conversation, but Eric Comrie is absolutely one of those guys. There were a lot of Jets fans that I think were a little bit, worried, I would say, that, Comrie wasn't going to be, as good, as Laurent Brossoit, but, you could argue he's been just as good.
He's certainly been effective. I mean, this was a tremendous performance by the Jets backup goaltender tonight. And you can see how excited the team is, when at the end of the game, when they're coming out to celebrate with him, because they know, that he was a large part of the reason the Jets won tonight's game, because in that second period, as you mentioned, really the back half of the first period, I would say, and the second period, the Devils took it to the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets started the game off well, but then their success rate diminished in the second half of the first period, and most of the second period was controlled by the Devils until Kyle Connor obviously got what turned out to be the game-winning goal. But Eric Comrie was big. He was the reason why the Jets were able to, he kept the team in it until they finally found their skating legs again in that third period. So full marks to Eric Comrie in tonight's contest against the New Jersey Devils, doing everything you want from a backup goaltender, putting forth the performance that you need from backup goaltenders when they get their sporadic opportunities to make a differess.
Yeah, and obviously, Hellebuck's going to get the start tomorrow night against the Islanders, but you wonder, there's a back-to-back coming up in a couple of weeks. You've got at home Columbus and Ottawa. That's on a Thursday night and a Friday night. But, you've got, after St. Louis, you've got Vegas, and then you've got a couple days off, and then you've got Boston coming up. You wonder, like, after the Islanders game, does Comrie get one of those 3 starts, right? Like, we know that he played well against St. Louis. So you maybe play him in, reward him for his good game tonight and play him against St. Louis, or maybe you go Hellebuck back-to-back, not back-to-back in consecutive nights, but you go with Hellebuck against the Islanders and then the Blues. Maybe Comrie plays against the Golden Knights. I think you're right, Drew. I think, the way he has played this year in limited action, I think, warrants him getting maybe a start that they didn't expect to give him. We know there's a lot of hockey yet to be played, tons of games coming up, both in March and April. So they're going to need him. And as I mentioned, he's going to get one of those games against Columbus or Ottawa, but you wonder if he gets another start before that.
You absolutely do. He certainly deserved it based on his performance tonight. Absolutely incredible job by Eric Comrie for the Winnipeg Jets. Let's get into the game recap. It's brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. It's simple, fun, and safe to play with Betway. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. And oh, by the by, if anybody made a money line wager on the Winnipeg Jets prior to today's game, the Jets were the underdog, and as a result, they paid a little bit more than they would typically would. So good job, anybody, for doing that. And I'm going to Barry Horowitz myself for being one of those people laying some shekels down on the Jets to win on the money line tonight. So good job.
You can take me out for dinner, Drew.
I'm not taking you anywhere. I can assure you that. The Jets open the scoring. Not a lot of goals to get through, but that's okay. The Jets open the scoring at the 3:22 mark of today's game. Brendan Dillon assist to Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler. Dillon converting the 2-on-1 with a beauty pass from Scheifele. Not the guy you would expect to see up there with Scheifele, but the usually considered stay-at-home defenseman jumps up into the rush and makes no mistake beating Nico Dawes of the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, I thought overall Brendan Dillon had a really strong game. I mean, he's consistent. I mean, that, you know what you're going to get out of Brendan Dillon, but he had a few other shots in the game. Obviously weren't as dangerous, but I mean, you know what I'm going to start with, Drew. I mean, it's just a really crafty play by Blake Wheeler in his own zone, right? Because obviously, you know, you can tell that the Jets are moving up the ice. There's a breakout, and I couldn't see, I didn't get to catch the replay. I couldn't see which Devil kind of pinched in on Wheeler, but you could tell that Wheeler almost drew him in, and I thought it was a very smart veteran move, and he could see that with that defenseman there was going to be an odd man rush, so he flips it up to Mark Scheifele, and I thought Scheifele just played that 2-on-1 absolutely perfectly, you know, fooled Nico Dawes into thinking that he's going to shoot. Obviously, Scheifele's a shooter, right? He can distribute the puck as well, but I just thought he played that perfectly, and then obviously Sauce's just a beautiful pass to Brendan Dillon. He makes no mistake, elevates it past Nico Dawes, and as you mentioned, I mean, Dillon, not a guy that gets a lot of goals, but you know, it's about timing in hockey, right? And he identified, you know, the fact that the Devils defenseman had pinched, gets in the play, and then obviously keeps his stick on the ice and, you know, just makes a nice shot over Nico Dawes. So a really pretty first goal, and you know exactly how you want to start a game, right? You want to get a goal in the first 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Perfect start for the Jets on the road. And really the first 10 minutes of the game, I thought the Jets looked, you know, a little bit, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say dominant, but they certainly controlled the pace of play for the first 10 minutes of today's contest. They had a number of opportunities. Nico Dawes, I mean, I think you have to talk about Nico Dawes to some extent too. This is a guy who's not very well known, also a young player, really getting his first extended NHL action, played on the same World Junior team for Team Canada as Eric Comrie, if I'm not mistaken, back in, what would that have been, 2015?
Not the same year. It was a couple years apart, because Nico
years apart. Okay.
Dawes was you know what? I'd have to check. It might have been the 2017 World Junior team.
Okay.
Comrie was, he would have been 2014 or 2015.
Time flies. This is now with the
point is, Drew, they've both won gold medals with Team Canada.
They certainly have. Yeah. I mean, Nico Dawes, again, not a very well-known guy in terms of name recognition, but he's been playing very well as of late for the New Jersey Devils. And there were a number of good opportunities that he was up to the task, just like Eric Comrie was for the Jets. And I mean, the Devils are a team that's been really looking for that goaltender of the future for really since Corey Schneider had, his career sort of got waylaid with injuries, after he was acquired from the Canucks. And I don't know if Nico Dawes is necessarily going to be that guy, but he's been very good for them over the last, 6 or 7 starts in a row. I think this was his 6th consecutive start that he's had for the Devils. And, he certainly didn't look out of place, in the Devils net tonight.
No, he's played really well for them, and he's very unlikely. At this point in the season, you wouldn't have thought that he was going to be the number 1 goalie, but obviously Mackenzie Blackwood, hasn't played in a while. He's injured. Jonathan Bernier's injured. They had to acquire John. It might have been off of waivers from St. Louis. I'm not sure. I forget. But John Gillies, who was originally drafted by Calgary, he's their backup. So the Devils, I think, have used 6 goaltenders, at least 5 goaltenders this year. And you're right, Drew. I mean, Corey Schneider was the short-term solution for their goaltending problems, but obviously, his career didn't end up the way he wanted. And Nico Dawes is absolutely right now. I mean, he's the kind of the goaltender of the future. Mackenzie Blackwood isn't an old goaltender by any stretch of the imagination. So Mackenzie Blackwood, I think, is going to factor in. But I think, seeing Nico Daws here at 21 years old, picking up some wins for the Devils, obviously in meaningless games, but still, you're right. I think, he's shown really well here, and, he's probably going to get the majority of the starts for the rest of the season.
You would think so. 2020, he played for Team Canada. So thank
Right.
you to somebody in the chat who mentioned that. Dr. Keating over here knew that Nico Daws played for Team Canada in 2020 as the backup.
That was the year with, I was just going to say Joel Hofer from Winnipeg.
Yeah, Joel Hofer, exactly. And then Hofer took over early on in that tournament after Dawes got that game against Russia, and that was all she wrote. In any event, it was 1-0 for the Jets early on in the game, and then the Devils scored their only goal of the contest coming on the power play. Jack Hughes, who we mentioned earlier, assist to Jesper Bratt and Damon Severson. I thought Severson was very solid for the Devils as well. Talking about another Brandon Weeking, if I'm not mistaken, right, Ezzy? This was a perfect seam pass that you draw it up, textbook on a power play. Seam pass from Bratt to Hughes, and boom, off his stick before Comrie could quite get over going side to side.
Yeah, just backing up a little bit before talking about the goal. I mean, I think you would agree, Drew, that they missed a call on Dylan DeMello, because that penalty call on Brendan Dillon was pretty weak. I actually thought the penalty call on Logan Stanley was a little bit weak, and it goes back to that, if you're 6'7", 220 plus pounds, when you're around a small player, it's like you can't even him because you're going to get a penalty, right? So just wanted to get that in there. I thought that that was clearly a makeup call for missing the Dylan DeMello. I don't know what you want to call it, hold or hook or whatever. But on that play, I mean, Jack Hughes again. I mean, he in a game in which you have a lot of skilled players, right? Connor, Ehlers, Dubois, Scheifele. I mean, Hughes, like, you can just tell that once he really matures, once he's 24, 25 years old, he's going to be a top player in the league. But just a beautiful pass by Jesper Bratt, a guy, if you look at his advanced stats, they're really phenomenal, and he's a guy that obviously leads the Devils in scoring. But this is a guy that I don't think a lot of people around the league or fans around the league, I should say, necessarily know about. Obviously, other teams know because they do their scouting and everything like that. But Brad is just such a smart player. He can score, but he can also set plays up. So that was just a perfect cross seam pass. And then obviously, Comrie got a piece of it. He got a little bit of it with his glove, but I mean, Hughes, it just wasn't enough. So nice goal. Luckily for the Jets, it was the only goal that the Devils scored. But when you give a team, a couple power plays in the first period, it's kind of inevitable that if they don't score a goal, they're going to get some quality chances. And Devils actually have a pretty decent power play. You can say whatever you want about this Devils team, youngest team in the league, but they've got a lot of skilled players like Thomas Tatar, who plays with Jesper Bratt. He's still, a decent offensive player in the NHL. So, the Devils, get Dougie Hamilton, they bring in Ryan Graves from Colorado. I mean, their defense is not what you would call, a top 10 defense in the league, but it's improved. And this Devils team, you can see they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, they certainly are going in the right direction. You talk about their defense. I mean, PK Subban is such a shell of himself. I mean, he's barely noticeable out there. There's some talk that he might get traded at the deadline, which of course is coming up rapidly a week from this coming Monday, about 11 days away. So I mean, there's some pieces on this Devils team, but there still need some more building blocks before they're really going to be able to go head to head with some of the best in the Eastern Conference. But it's 1-1 after 20 minutes, and we talk about Jack Hughes, and I thought the Jets, they improved their D zone coverage as the game went on, but there were a number of opportunities, especially in that second period, Ezzy, where the middle of the ice had a big for sale sign on it, and Hughes and other Devils players were all too happy to occupy it. Again, it's the Jets. It's odd and continues to be bizarre that their bugaboo is, the one thing that every team preaches is don't give up the center of the ice, and the Jets continue to do it. I mean, there were a number of chances, and our buddy Scott Billick tweeted about it during the game as well, where the Jets are just sort of soft in their own zone, and the Devils had good opportunities right from the high danger area, right from the mid slot, right from the high slot even. And, you play with fire when you give up those opportunities. The Jets were fortunate not to get burned in tonight's contest, but it's really something that they continue to have to shore up over the next, over the remainder of the season, certainly. And then it's a continued problem area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it there. I mean, it was just too easy for the Devils to enter the Jet zone. Like it was just like the gaps weren't being closed. Like I just mentioned, Thomas Tatar, Jesper Bratt on that line, Pavel Zacha as the center, but that top line, Hughes, Mercer, and Sharon Govich, like both of those lines, I mean, they're built for speed. I mean, they are built for, those are young, skilled players, and they're all fast. And the Jets were having difficulty slowing them down, right? And in situations like that, I mean, you've got to use physicality, and you've just got to be tighter and, not let those zone entries be that easy. And there was too much pressure in, parts of the first and second periods. And you just saw the Jets, not really have the puck. And that's why you didn't see, like, Scheifele, Stastny, Wheeler. I thought their best period was the third period. And obviously, Scheifele factored in with Wheeler on the first goal, but you didn't see a lot of scoring chances from that line through the first two periods. Even Connor Dubois and Svechnikov didn't really have that many scoring chances that you would like to see at even strength. And that was a lot to do with the fact that, the Devils just had the puck for the most part. So, Eric Comrie comes up big, and, the Jets were able to kind of weather the storm, so to speak. And, in the third period, you could see that, the Jets slowed it down a little bit, but that's a big part of hockey. Like when you don't dictate the pace and you don't kind of, establish what you want to establish offensively in the game. I mean, that obviously opens it up for the Devils, in this particular case where, it was kind of a little bit too, back and forth, and there was a little bit too much transition offense, right, happening from the Devils. And, they could have easily had a goal or two in that middle frame. So give Comrie a lot of credit. He kept it a tie game until Connor obviously scored late in the period. And, that's all the Jets needed. That is the thing with the Devils. I mean, the Devils are not a team that you expect to score 3 or 4 goals in a period. So you kind of got the feeling that, after that goal was scored, even though nobody knew it was a goal, you kind of got the feeling, and hey, give the Jets credit, Drew. The third period, we've talked about it a lot this year. They've had trouble shutting down games. They shut this game down.
They absolutely did. And, we'll talk about the third period, but we, of course, have to talk about what turned out to be the game-winning goal by Kyle Connor. And, I mean, Connor comes in on the breakaway here. And, I mean, it is such a skillful backhand where he goes bar down, basically, and nobody, except for Kyle Connor, knew where the puck was. I'm watching at home, and I'm like, did it go off the crossbar and over the glass?
That's what I thought happened.
Of course, because that was he didn't really have much of a reaction. There was no real reaction from anybody on the ice, but to go bar down
turn back though. He did turn back and point, and obviously we didn't know because they went to commercial break, right? So I mean, you weren't really sure what was going on there. And then obviously on the replay, you could see that the puck got stuck in the back of the net.
Well, that's just it. He goes bar down with such ferocity on his backhand that it then gets gets wedged in the back of the net. I mean, so much about that goal is just so talented. I mean, how much can we say about Kyle Connor? That's his 35th of the season. He's a fantastic player to watch. He could have had on that Jets power play, the first one where Ty Smith was in the box on the third period, where the board battle's going on, and somehow Kyle Connor gets left all alone next to Nico Dawes. He very easily could have had another goal there. Dawes made a very good play, or was it Severson coming back to sort of deflect it away? But, as a general rule, Kyle Connor, when he's left all alone, is going to deposit the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah, and you have to give Dubois a ton of credit, right, for that turnover. I forget it. Was it Hughes or was it Jesper Bratt? I forget. It was one of those two players, and Dubois just, it wasn't really a hit, but he gets his big frame in the way and causes that turnover and obviously springs Connor. And you're right, Drew. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, 40 is going to 40 might happen on this 40 goals, obviously might happen on this road trip, right? Like he's going to score 40 easily. And I think he's probably going to score 45 easily. And I think he's going to get close to 50. I mean, obviously we don't know if he's going to get to 50, but I mean, look at the way he's scoring right now.
20, what they got? This was game 58. So what do you got? You got 23 games and you got 15 goals. I mean, he can get them in bunches. 50 would be tough. 50 is going to be tough,
but
but it's certainly going
doable
but
for
doable.
him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for
doable,
him, right?
certainly. The way the way he's putting him up this year, and he seems to get at least one or two high danger chances every game, and he's getting chances. I mean, we know he's getting chances on the power play, of course, but he's also getting him 5-on-5, and he's getting him shorthanded too. So I mean, there's no reason why it can't happen, and boy, that would be an incredible performance by him this year. We have to. What do you think was going through Mark Scheifele's mind when he passed up shooting on that breakaway to look for the pass to Blake Wheeler? An odd game from 55 for the Jets. Not a bad game by any means. I mean, he didn't have, as far as I can remember, any glaring turnovers or any glaring defensive zone breakdowns, and he truly probably should have had an empty net goal that ended up being with the Thomas Tatar tripping penalty late in the third period. But just an odd sequence where you would expect Mark Scheifele to not only shoot, but shoot and quite possibly succeed in that circumstance.
Yeah, well, he only had one shot credited with one shot on net in this game, and he gets out there on the power play, and obviously, he factored in big time. The power play I didn't think looked very good tonight, but they obviously didn't really need it to be that good. And I'm not sure what to say there. I mean, Scheifele is a guy that can shoot the puck, but he also will sometimes defer, right? And I'm not sure if you're talking about the one in the third period that Stastny was in on, but it looked like they would at least get a shot on net, and they didn't. But I was putting my kids down for bed a little bit, so I might have missed that one, Drew. I apologize. Even though, for this post-game show, I should be watching every single little play. But if you're talking about the one I'm thinking of, they didn't get a shot on net, and it was a 3-on-2.
No, he had a clear path. This isn't. You must. You're when you were on daddy duty, which I totally understand because
the early game. It kills me.
I know.
That's why I always tell you, give me an 8:00 start for dads. 8:00 works perfectly. Your kids are in bed. You get to watch the whole game. 7:00, usually I don't get to watch the whole first period. 6:00, I'm in the middle of cleaning crumbs up off the floor and getting lunches ready for daycare tomorrow.
Those are your own crumbs. Those aren't the kids' crumbs. We know the kids can clean up after themselves. They're the ones cleaning up after you usually. You'll go back and you'll watch it, but it was a very odd sequence. He had a clear lane to the net, a clear path. And he elected, he was in a high danger zone, and he elected to sort of pass it off to Wheeler. And, typically Wheeler is not the sniper of the two of them. It's Wheeler is the setup guy, and Scheifele is the sniper. And then what should have been a golden opportunity didn't end up happening. The puck, Wheeler, I don't know that he was necessarily expecting the pass, and he bobbled it a bit. It was just an odd read is how I would describe it. There wasn't anything malicious about it. It was just, sometimes you think that the pass is going to lead to a golden opportunity, and you pass up you pass up, let's say, a silver plus opportunity. Well, that would be how I would describe that happening in that instance with Mark Scheifele and with Blake Wheeler. In any event, the third period, as we talked about, Ezzy, the Jets did a tremendous job in the third period. It was their best period of the game, I think, top to bottom. They get 14 shots to the Devils' 8. That's not, that can be a little misleading at times, but they really controlled the third period in my mind, especially after, as you mentioned, the Dylan DeMello hooking penalty early in the third period that the Devils had an opportunity to score on the power play. They weren't able to. And then from then on, what impressed me the most about the Jets in the third wasn't that they controlled the play. It was that they were aggressively controlling the play. They weren't sitting back at all. They weren't trying to get into a defensive shell. It wasn't a case of, the prevent defense. All that does is prevent you from winning. They were taking the play to the Devils. And as a result, most of the action was in the Devils zone in that third period.
Yeah. And, Ehlers, I thought, stood out big time in that third period, and that line of Ehlers, Kopp, and Lowry, we weren't sure, how long they were going to stick together. Yeah. But, you look at the other two lines. I mean, Connor Dubois-Svechnikov is the obvious line that, we don't expect to be broken up anytime soon. But then you look at Scheifele, Stastny, and Wheeler, and you say, okay, it's just a matter of time before, Ehlers is reunited on the top line. Maybe not tomorrow, but it'll happen eventually. I mean, Ehlers isn't going to be on that third line, but then you kind of think about it, and he just adds whatever line he's going to play on. He's going to be a play driver. We've talked about that so many times. Ehlers the best forward on this team in terms of, well, just period, but also in terms of, driving play and zone entries and possession and everything like that. So, that line really worked well, I thought, and yeah, they were, trying to create offense. And why wouldn't you against a Devils team that just quite frankly isn't very good? Yeah, they have a few young players that, are dangerous, like Nico Hischier. We talked about Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt. But the Devils are not a team that you have to, go back and, be in the prevent defense, as you mentioned, Drew. So, yeah, I like the way they played in the third period. And, I really think it's huge. Like, they have to win, I think, in order for them to really get back into this playoff race or get into a playoff spot at some point. They have to win all of these games on the road. They have to win the next two. They have to beat the Islanders, and you have to beat the St. Louis Blues. So this is a great start. And obviously you want to identify, the parts of the game that didn't go very well, namely the second period and the end of the first period. So it wasn't a beautiful game. But again, at this point in the season, it's about wins and losses. And there was enough in this game that you like that hopefully you can build off of. And it doesn't mean that they're going to beat the Islanders or beat the Blues. But look at if you lose the first game, if you lose the first game, then your playoff chances are you're almost done.
Well, and you can build off that third period. The 5-on-5 Corsi 4 in that third period. So take away the Jets had the 2 power plays. The second one being very sort of an odd power play because the Devils pulled Nico Dawes to make it more of a 5-on-5 situation than a traditional power play. But you take it the 5-on-5 in that third period where the Jets are holding on to a lead. They controlled 67% of the possession in that period at 5-on-5. That's something that you need to be able to build upon, but that's how you close a game. That's how you shut down your opponent and you don't give them that real opportunity to get back in the game. You hold on to the puck and you keep it in the opponent's zone. And that's what the Jets were able to do in that third period. And that's certainly a key factor in tonight's game. You got the Eric Comrie factor and you have that third period for the Jets, a very tidy, a very impressive, and a much, much, much needed 2-1 victory for the Jets to get the road trip off to a good start before they head not far. They don't go far to go to Long Island tomorrow night.
Like your bachelor party in 2011 all over again.
With the only exception being there's no Rangers game on this road trip. Because yes, for the 2011, for my bachelor party, we did the Islanders on a Thursday night. We did the Devils on a Saturday night, and we did the Rangers on a Sunday night. The Jets did the 3 games.
It really was the best trip ever.
It was a good trip.
Really wasn't. I'm not just buttering you up there.
Thank you.
It was the first year of the Jets being back. The fact, Drew, that was 11 years ago.
I know.
Is pretty much going to make my head explode because it doesn't feel like 11 years ago. It feels like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, just and we saw so many people that we knew from Winnipeg that made the trip, because that's kind of a rare thing that you can do where you can go see 3 teams on the road and they're that close together, right? We were taking the train and then we stayed right across from MSG, right? So that was pretty awesome. If I remember correctly, the Jets beat the Islanders.
Correct.
Beat the Devils.
Incorrect. They lost to the Devils in overtime, but they were down 2-0 with about 10 minutes to go in the game.
Right.
And I'm trying
Andrew
to think
Ladd tied it up.
I don't remember who tied it up, but I'm trying to remember if it was Mark Stewart's dad or Ron Hainsey's dad.
It was Ron Hainsey's dad.
It was Ron Hainsey's dad was sitting next to us. Was sitting near us in the stands, and he, started saying to us, "Hey, you guys need to cheer louder to get the team going." This is, obviously many, many years ago, as we were saying. So the Jets tied it up in New Jersey with 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to tie it up to get the point where they lost in overtime. And then the Sunday night in MSG,
they lost to the Rangers. I remember that. Yeah,
they played about as hungover as we were for that Sunday. It was a bit of a blurry Sunday, as the whole trip was a bit of a blur, as you might imagine. But it was a very good trip. You're right about that. Mr. Ginsburg. And, as in Svetch we trust, PLD says, what happened in New York stays in New York, because there are some very interesting stories from that trip that absolutely will not be told on this platform. I can assure you of that. But there's some very good stories emanating from
X-rated.
That trip. Well, not even going there. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. It's not even worth it because the image is in my head and now I'm disturbed and we should probably go to break. But before we do that, we want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Betway. They're in charge of the game recap. It's brought to you by Betway. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. When we come back, more on the Jets and the Devils, more on the road trip. We preview tomorrow night's game between the Jets and the Islanders. We'll also take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Don't go anywhere. He's Ezra Ginsburg. I'm Drew Mandel. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Hey boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. The clock strikes 9:15 in the evening. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's certainly going to be a busy stretch for us here at Illegal Curve. We have tonight's post-game show, which you're currently watching. Thank you to everybody for doing that. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Smash the like button.
Smash it.
Smash it. Smash the subscribe button. Subscribe to the podcast. All that good stuff. Tell your friends. Tell your family. You know it. The best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game is here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. We have another one coming for you tomorrow night. Post game right around 9:15 p.m., like 24 hours from this exact moment, give or take, after the Jets and the New York Islanders will do battle. Saturday morning, 9 a.m., we have the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Rennie himself, Sean Reynolds, is going to join us. Jeremy Rutherford covers the St. Louis Blues for The Athletic. He's going to join us to talk about the Blues. And then again, Sunday, we have the post-game show right around, I think, 8:45 or so. Another 6 o'clock start, the Jets and the Blues, to wrap up the 3 and 4 nights on this road trip. So if you're not sick of us yet, you might be sick of us by Sunday night, but hopefully not. And you'll keep on joining us, and you'll tell your friends, tell your family, the place to be is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard in tonight's game. Actually, what I wanted to highlight more than anything is that no matter what happens between the Anaheim Ducks and the Nashville Predators, with tonight's victory, the Jets will be no worse than 5 points behind the Dallas Stars for the second playoff spot. The Stars, they're idle tonight. They are not in action, but they will have 2 games in hand on the Winnipeg Jets. The Predators are currently up 2-0 on Anaheim. That's about 5 minutes into the third period. The Predators, with a victory, can move 3 points ahead of the Stars for the first wild card spot as they continue. They'd be looking for their third consecutive win. If they're able to defeat the Ducks, the Jets will move closer to Anaheim and Vancouver and Edmonton in that race, in that chase to get back into a playoff position. As this last 20 or so games of the season are rapidly approaching us, Mr. Ginsburg.
Yeah, and Dallas's next game is against the Rangers, and then they've got the Leafs coming up. So, I mean, Jets fans can at least, watch the scoreboard and know that they're playing 2 really good teams in the Eastern Conference, right? So, yeah, Dallas is the team that you're going to catch. You're not going to catch Nashville, especially, if they hang on, right? Because I think that would put them at 8 points. Ahead of the Jets, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because they're temporarily 6 ahead.
There you go. Look at you doing the math.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm doing the math, a.k.a. Refreshing NHL.com, right? So yeah, I mean, Dallas is the team that you're going to target, and those points that they lost in the extra period to Dallas might really haunt them in their sleep. But look, I mean, all you can focus on right now is winning games in regulation, and that's what they've done the last couple of games. And as we talked about, I mean, you want to get at least 3 of 4 points in these next couple games. St. Louis is always a tough matchup for the Jets. The Islanders defeated the Blue Jackets, who actually are still in the playoff race. The Islanders are not. But obviously they've been playing, better hockey as of late under Barry Trotz. So look at
Blue Jackets are 13 points behind the wild card spot.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying though that they've made it interesting. They're not going to make the playoffs either because the Islanders are even further out, right?
The Islanders are 20 points. It's actually comical if you look at the East. Boston and Washington hold down the 2 wild card spots in the East, and then the closest team to Washington are the Blue Jackets, who are 13 points behind them. So the East, as you can see, is certainly top heavy with their top 8, and then everybody else in the East.
The East, in my opinion, is so much better than the West this year. I don't think you would disagree with that, Drew. I don't think many hockey fans would. And when you talk about Washington and Boston being wild card teams, I mean, those 2 teams could easily represent the East in the Stanley Cup final. Like, I'm not even joking. I mean, Boston, I have some questions about their goaltending and their depth, but you look at Washington, you could say the same thing with Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov, even though Samsonov has played really well lately. But I mean, whenever you've got Ovechkin and Backstrom and Kuznetsov and John Carlson, I mean, the list goes on and on. So the fact that the Capitals are a wild card team is actually pretty hilarious. But you're right. I mean, Columbus is out of it. The Islanders are definitely out of it. But look, they're a hardworking bunch. They have a lot of pride. And, they've been winning some games lately, including tonight over the Blue Jackets. So it's not going to be an easy test. Nope. The Islanders obviously aren't going to have any advantage in terms of, rest or anything like that, because they all also played tonight. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But, these are points that are available. I mean, this is not a team that, is resembling a Stanley Cup contender, even though some idiot picked the Islanders to win the Stanley Cup this year. But I mean, that Devon Taves trade is looking really bad because they could use him. I think, when you lose Taves, you lose Leddy, you lose Jordan Eberle. They're just not as deep of a team as they were the last couple of years, right? So an
And the
opportunity
Jets,
there, but it's not going to be easy. Never an easy game against the Islanders.
it's certainly not. That'll be tomorrow night, 6:30 puck drop, post game 9:15 here on our YouTube channel. So be sure to join us back there for that. Ezzy, Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment. Who are you giving it to tonight?
Yeah, you mentioned In Svetch We Trust PLD before, and I don't think that I don't keep track of these winners. Like I email.
You really might want to.
I probably should, but
Yeah.
I like to just
maybe for next year.
Keep it a little bit loose. Yeah, maybe next year. It's too late in the season now, Drew, but we're going to give it to In Svetch We Trust PLD. I don't think he's won before, or she has won before, but if he or she has won before, we'll send another toque. So you got the comment up there. We played with fire. Love the emoticons with those pesky second period devils. It's funny that the devil is purple. I'm not sure if there's a red option, and then the culminator, that I like that one the best. Calling Eric Comrie the culminator, kind of a homage to Dominic Hasek there, Dominator, right? Shut them out. Agreed, more control over center ice in the second period. I just like that comment, and mainly the emoticon. So send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com. Send me your mailing address, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you directly. And even though the weather is going to get better eventually.
Are you sure about that?
Well, I'm wearing a toque. I'm in my basement. It's pretty cold in my basement.
No, I'm saying, are you sure the weather's going to get better? Because I'm not convinced about that anymore.
What a crappy winter. Just get this over with. I mean, like, it's just, at this point, it's just cruel, right? Yeah. Like, it's the second week of March, and it's still -30. So Tough Duck's going to send you a toque, and you can wear it for the next couple of weeks, and obviously, wear it next winter. You can also slide into my DMs, ICSEG, and just send me a little message, and then send me your mailing address, and I'll know where you live.
There you go. Big thank you to our friends at Tough Duck for the proud sponsor of the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment in tonight's contest. Before we wrap up, I don't know if you saw Jack Eichel's quote, but for anybody who missed it, it's a good one. So the Vegas Golden Knights played in Buffalo earlier tonight. Obviously, this is the homecoming for Eichel after the trade. The Sabres won the game 3-1. Here is the post-game quote from Jack Eichel. "This is about the loudest I've ever heard this place, this arena, ever. Really. It only took them 7 years and me leaving for them to get into the game." So a little bit of salt from Jack Eichel after the game between the Sabres and the Golden Knights. And I got to tell you,
shots fired from Jack Eichel. That's hilarious.
I love it. Great quote. Might as well get the hate on, thank you, Jack Eichel. I hope the Sabres chew glass listening to that quote because they're pissed off. I want I want the Golden Knights and the Sabres to be the most random, bitter rivalry in the NHL. And that's a great quote from
the Sabres.
Jack
have
Eichel.
Any rivals? I feel like they're so bad that they don't even have any rivals because they can't beat anybody, right? But Jack Eichel, I was going to say, I don't think Vegas's record, it hasn't been good. I know that with Jack Eichel because he's only played 10 games or something like that now.
Yeah.
But Vegas is a team that you wonder, where is this team headed going into the playoffs? Because right now, I mean, obviously we know Calgary and Edmonton have made their push, and I still think Vegas is in third in that division.
They are large. I mean, they're 2 points ahead of the Oilers. Basically, again, the Pacific being what the Pacific is, which is not great. Whoever, they're not going to, they probably won't have a team in the wild card necessarily. But the Vegas is currently 2 points up on Edmonton, albeit Edmonton has a game in hand. And really, they're only 4 points ahead of the Vancouver Canucks. So Vegas certainly has been, I would say, they've certainly been one of the biggest underachievers this season in the NHL.
They need Mark Stone back.
Yeah, they
Mark
do.
Stone hasn't played in over a month. They need him back.
And I don't know if they're going to get him back before the playoffs, especially with their salary cap situation and LTIR and everything else. They've got some issues in Vegas. We'll see if they're able to squeak in. That said, if they squeak in and they get Mark Stone back, they're probably a team that you really don't want to face in the playoffs because of all the talent they have, at least on paper, if not necessarily playing that well as of yet.
Yeah, in Edmonton, Vegas, I think that's who they would play right now. They wouldn't play Vegas.
Vegas
Edmonton?
would play LA right now. Vegas is in third in the Pacific. It's Calgary, LA, Vegas right now, and of course Vegas. Depending on what happens.
Edmonton is in the first wild card. Or no, they're not even in the playoff spot now.
They're not even in the playoffs anymore. Right now, the first 2 wild cards are Nashville and Dallas. Edmonton is right behind Dallas, a point behind, with the Stars having 2 games in hand. So Edmonton currently is out of a playoff spot.
Okay. Forget what I was going to say. I was going to say I'd love to see a Vegas-Edmonton first round matchup. I'd like to see Vegas and LA as well. Wow. I mean, like, talk about a team that you don't want to play in the first round. LA has been one of those good stories, for a team that's missed the playoffs a bunch of times. But Vegas has to figure it out, because this was a team that had Stanley Cup aspirations at the beginning of the season, and especially after. You don't acquire Jack Eichel unless you think you're going to win the Stanley Cup, right? We know what they gave up. So,
speaking of a team that had Stanley Cup aspirations, that was the Winnipeg Jets. They were victorious tonight by a 2-1 margin in New Jersey over the Devils. The Jets head back on the road, not far, to Long Island to face the Islanders tomorrow night as they look to continue the good vibes that they at least have started with tonight's victory over the Devils. Before we wrap up, got to say a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make this show, who make the Saturday show, and they make the website a possibility. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Again, we remind you, 9:15 p.m. tomorrow night, post-game after the Jets and the Islanders. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the podcast, leave us some comments, let us know what you like, let us know what you dislike. We always appreciate the feedback, and tell your friends, tell your family members the best place to be for post-game coverage after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings, is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. Ezra Ginsburg's the man on the right. He's wearing the toque. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Until tomorrow night, we say thanks for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve postgame show. We wish you good night and good luck.